Undercover boss fired. The smell of sweat and oil clung to the air like a second skin. The rhythmic clanking of machinery filled the cavernous factory floor as men and women in faded uniforms worked with mechanical precision, their faces weary but determined. John Matthews tightened his grip on the mop handle and pushed it across the cracked concrete, forcing himself to blend into the background. His shoulders ached from hours of menial labor, and his lower back throbbed from stooping too long. This wasn't the life of a billionaire CEO, not the life he was born into. But this undercover mission wasn't about comfort. It was about truth. He'd been hearing whispers of corruption for months, rumors that the company he built from the ground up was rotting at its core. So he had shed his tailored Armani suit for worn jeans, a faded t-shirt, and a battered baseball cap pulled low over his brow. Now, Mike the janitor worked the night shift at Matthews Industries' largest plant. And no one knew the man mopping up spilled oil and dust was the same man whose signature adorned their paychecks. They think they know me, John thought grimly, wringing out the mop in a bucket of murky water. But they have no idea. It didn't take long for John to see the cracks. Managers barking orders like drill sergeants. Workers whispering about paychecks arriving late, or not at all. Supplies vanishing from storerooms without explanation. And then there were the shipments. 2 nights ago, John overheard a hushed conversation near the loading docks. The shipment's not on the books, one man had said nervously. What if someone finds out? No one's going to find out, replied another voice, low and sharp. Keep your mouth shut and take the bonus, or you'll end up like Carter. Carter? He quit, didn't he? A bitter laugh. Sure, that's what they told his wife. The word sent a chill through John's spine. He knew now that something bigger was happening. 2 weeks into his undercover mission, John decided it was time to confront his top executives. He'd seen enough to confirm his worst fears. He cleaned up, shaved his growing beard, and put on his signature charcoal suit. The man staring back at him in the mirror still looked the part of CO. But there was a sharpness in his eyes now, a rage born of betrayal. At 8 a.m. sharp, he strode into the boardroom like a thunderstorm. The room fell silent. 12 men and women in sleek business attire turned to him, their eyes widening in shock. John, muttered Alan Foster, the CFO, his voice dripping with faux surprise. Yes, Alan, John said coldly. It's me, surprised to see the dead man walking. Nervous chuckles, shuffling papers. No one dared speak. John slammed a thick folder onto the polished mahogany table. Do you know what this is? He demanded, his voice echoing in the cavernous room. No response. Please like and subscribe to this channel for more. It's evidence, he continued, his tone icy. Evidence of theft, fraud, and betrayal. Our betrayal of the workers, the clients, and this company's very soul. Finally, Alan found his voice. John, we can explain. Explain, John thundered. You're bleeding this company dry, while the people on the floor can barely feed their families. Silence, then a slow, mocking clap. From the head of the table, Gregory Kane, chairman of the board, rose to his feet. Bravo, John, he said smoothly, an inspiring performance. Truly, his eyes glittered like shards of ice. But there's just one problem. Gregory pulled a sleek folder from his briefcase and slid it across the table. This is your termination letter, effective immediately. John stared at the letter, his mind reeling. This is a joke, he said, voice tight. You can't fire me. This is my company. Gregory's smile widened, shark-like. Was, John. It was your company. But while you were playing janitor, the board voted, unanimously. Around the table, his former colleagues avoided his gaze. Security. Gregory called. 2 large men in black suits appeared at the door. Escort Mr. Matthews out, Gregory ordered, and make sure he doesn't take anything with him. They dragged him through the lobby as employees watched in stunned silence. Some looked away, ashamed. Others smirked. John's chest burned with humiliation. This isn't over, he vowed silently. They've taken my company, but they haven't taken me. As the glass door shut behind him, cutting him off from the empire he built, A storm began to rage in the sky above. That night, in a dingy motel room, John poured himself a glass of cheap whiskey and stared at the city lights. His phone buzzed. An anonymous message flashed across the screen. "We know what they did to you, and we can help you fight back, if you're ready." John's jaw tightened. He drained the glass, set it down, and picked up the phone. "Tell me what I need to do." The world moved on without him. In the days after John Matthews was ousted from his own company, his name dominated the headlines, then faded into the background noise of the 24-hour news cycle. Disgracio removed in stunning board coup. John Matthews fired. A cautionary tale of power and paranoia. The man who once commanded boardrooms and dominated stock markets now wandered through dimly lit alleys and bus terminals, wearing the same wrinkled shirt for the third straight day. No one recognized him. No one cared. But John wasn't finished. Not yet. It started with a name. Carter. The factory workers had whispered it late at night, when they thought no one was listening. What happened to Carter? "Shut up, man. You want to end up like him?" John needed answers. The next evening, he found himself standing outside a suburban home in the pouring rain. The mailbox still bore Carter's name. The house looked abandoned. Blinds drawn, lawn overgrown, the faint smell of mildew leaking from the cracked siding. He knocked. No answer. Then again, harder. This time, the door creaked open. A young woman peered out, eyes puffy and red. "Who are you?" she demanded. "My name is Mike." John lied. "I work with Carter at the plant. I just wanted to check on him." Her lip trembled. You don't know?" John's stomach nodded. "Know what?" She swallowed hard. "Carter's dead. They said it was an accident. A car crash on a rainy highway. No witnesses. No skid marks. No autopsy. But Carter's wife didn't believe it. "He told me someone was watching him," she said in a whisper, glancing over her shoulder as though unseen eyes peered through the cracks in her curtains. "He was scared. Said he'd found something. Something big." She handed John a crumpled envelope. "He told me to give this to someone I trust if anything ever happened to him. I guess you'll have to do." Inside the envelope was a single USB drive and a note. "If you're reading this, I'm already gone. Don't trust anyone. Not even the board. Especially not the board. Carter." That night, John sat hunched over a battered laptop in a cheap motel. Rain streaked the window as the faint glow of the screen lit his face. He plugged in the drive. Folders filled the screen. One caught his eye, Project Hydra. John clicked. His jaw tightened as files spilled open. Spreadsheets, wire transfers, encrypted communications. Billions of dollars siphoned into offshore accounts. Illegal weapons deals. Bribes to politicians. And worse, evidence tying his company to covert government operations, assassination contracts, and human trafficking. This wasn't just corporate corruption. This was a global conspiracy. John's pulse thundered in his ears. No wonder they fired me, he thought. I got too close. Suddenly, the laptop screen flickered. A chat window popped open. Anonymous. "Stop digging, John. You're in over your head." John's heart stopped. "John, who is this?" "Anonymous. Someone who wants to keep you alive. They're watching you right now. You've got 60 seconds to leave." John's fingers froze over keyboard. "Anonymous. Move. Now." A black SUV screeched into the motel parking lot. Men in tactical gear poured out, rifles raised. John snatched a USB drive and bolted to the bathroom window, landing hard on wet pavement. Bullets tore through motel walls as he sprinted into the shadows, lungs burning, heart hammering like a drum. By the time he reached the edge of the city, the motel was engulfed in flames. In an abandoned warehouse, John finally caught his breath. His phone buzzed. A new message. Anonymous. "They know who you are. They know what you've seen. There's only one way out now." "John, and what's that?" "Anonymous. You fight. We'll help you. But first, you need to meet the resistance." John stared at the glowing screen, rainwater dripping from his hair. "I didn't start this war," he muttered, "but I'll finish it. Kindly like and subscribe to this channel for more." John Matthews stumbled through the rain-slicked streets, his pulse pounding in his ears. Each step felt heavier than the last. His ribs ached from the fall out of the motel window. The phantom echo of gunfire still rang in his head. They were hunting him now. Helicopters roared above the city skyline. Black SUVs with tinted windows idled on street corners. Men in tactical gear moved like shadows in the alleys. And somewhere in a smoky boardroom high above it all, Gregory Kane, the man who stole his company, watched with cold satisfaction. But John wasn't ready to die. Not yet. His phone buzzed again. Another message from Anonymous. "You're bleeding. 2 blocks south. Brick warehouse with red door. Knock 3 times. They'll help." John's eyes darted to the shadows. Why am I trusting a faceless voice on a screen? He thought. But it wasn't like he had options. He turned down a side street, clutching his side. The rain slicked his hair to his face. His breath came in ragged gasps. Finally, he found it. A crumbling brick building with a faded red door. John knocked 3 times. Silence. Then, click. The door creaked open, revealing a woman in combat boots and a black leather jacket. Her eyes were sharp, assessing. "Name," she demanded. "Matthews," John said, his voice hoarse. "John Matthews?" Her brow furrowed. "You're not what I expected." "Neither are you," John shot back. She stepped aside. "Come in, before they see you." The warehouse was alive with movement. Men and women sat at glowing laptops, fingers flying across keyboards. Screens flickered with live feeds of protests, encrypted messages, and maps dotted with red pins. Others cleaned rifles, packed medical supplies, or whispered hurriedly in corners. It wasn't just a hideout. It was a war room. "Welcome to the resistance," said the woman. John glanced at her. "Who are you?" he asked. "Call me Raven," she said. "And you?" "Apparently," John muttered, "I'm public enemy number 1. They showed in the footage. Clips of workers walking off assembly lines. Students marching in the streets. Entire cities chanting his name. "We are John Matthews. Justice for John. Take back what's ours. Do you realize what you started?" Raven asked, her tone somewhere between admiration and warning. "I didn't start anything," John replied grimly. "They did. But you lit the match," she said, "and now the whole world's burning." Just as hope began to flicker, chaos erupted. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. "They found us," a voice shouted. John and Raven exchanged a glance. "Go," she barked, shoving a pistol into his hands. "If they get you, it's over. You're more than a man now. You're the symbol. The Hydra wants you dead because they fear what you represent." The resistance scrambled to evacuate. Explosions rocked the building as black-clad mercenaries poured through shattered windows. "Get him out!" Raven yelled. A young hacker grabbed John's arm and led him to a hidden exit. As they fled into the sewers, John looked back just in time to see Raven gunned down. Her scream echoed in his ears. Hours later, safe in an underground bunker, John stared at a resistance broadcast looping on a cracked screen. Raven's voice, recorded early that week, rang out. "They can kill us. They can burn our homes. But they can never kill the idea that we deserve better. They can never kill the truth." And then her final words. John Matthews didn't fall. He rose. Crowds around the world erupted. "John! John! John!" John gripped the USB drive tight. This isn't about revenge anymore, he thought. This is about all of them. All of us. He turned to the ragged group of resistance fighters. "Show me the mastermind," he said. His voice was low, steady. "Show me how to kill Hydra. Like and subscribe to this channel." The waves smashed against the rocks like thunder. Far offshore, shrouded in dense fog, a fortress loomed, an ominous silhouette of steel and concrete rising from the sea. This was where it all began. This was where it had to end. John Matthews stood on the deck of a battered fishing boat, staring at the monstrous compound ahead. The chill wind bit into his skin, but he didn't flinch. Behind him, a ragtag squad of resistance fighters loaded weapons and checked gear. "You don't have to go in yourself," said Elena, a former Special Forces operative. "Let's handle this." John shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "This is my fight." They approached under the cover of darkness, cutting the engine and drifting with the tide. John slipped into the icy water and swam the final 100 yards, his breath deep and steady. He scaled the jagged sea wall, his fingers raw from gripping barnacle-encrusted stone. At the top, he crouched in the shadows, surveying the enemy's nest. Mercenaries in black armor patrolled with rifles and searchlights. Surveillance drones buzzed overhead like angry hornets. John's pulse remained calm. "One step at a time," he told himself. "Don't think about dying. Just keep moving." Silently, he took out 2 guards near the loading docks. Then all hell broke loose. An explosion ripped through the south gate as the resistance launched their assault. Sirens wailed. Gunfire erupted. John sprinted through the chaos, his boots pounding against cold steel floors. Finally, he reached the heart of the fortress, a sleek glass-walled room overlooking the crashing waves. And there he was, the mastermind. A man in an impeccable white suit stood with his back to John, swirling a glass of red wine, as if he'd been expecting him. "Ah, John," said the man without turning. "You've come a long way." John's grip tightened on his pistol. "Turn around," he growled. The man obeyed slowly, revealing a face John knew better than his own, his brother, David Matthews. "You," John's voice cracked. "It was you all along." David smiled cold and shark-like. "Surprised? You shouldn't be. You built the empire. I perfected it. You destroyed it." John spat. "No, brother," David said calmly. "I evolved it. You were too weak to do what needed to be done." John's finger hovered on the trigger. "Give me one reason not to end this now." "Because you don't have the guts," David replied, stepping closer. "You were always a dreamer. I was the doer. That's why they followed me." The first punch came fast. David slammed his wine glass down and lunged at John, sending the pistol skidding across the floor. They collided in a brutal fistfight. 2 brothers locked in a dance of rage and betrayal. Glass shattered. Blood splattered. John's knuckles split open as he landed blow after blow, but David countered with ruthless precision. "You can't kill me, John." David roared, pinning him against the window. "Without me, Hydra won't die. It'll grow stronger. Then I'll burn it all down with you inside." John shouted, headbutting him and breaking free. John spotted the central server, a glowing monolith of data that powered Hydra's entire network. He grabbed a thermite charge from his vest. "Stop!" David screamed, blood streaming from his mouth. "If you destroy that, millions will die. You don't know what you're doing." John hesitated for a split second. Then he slammed the charge onto the server and set the timer. "Goodbye, David." Sirens blared. Flames engulfed the room. John sprinted down the corridor as explosions tore through the fortress. A collapsing beam blocked his path. He dove under it, his lungs screaming for air. At the final exit, he looked back and saw David, trapped under rubble, reaching out a bloodied hand. "John, help me." For a moment, their eyes met. 2 brothers. 2 paths. John turned away. He leapt from the cliffside as the entire fortress erupted in a ball of fire. Hydra network destroyed in explosion. Is John Matthews dead? A hero or a traitor? Millions mourned. Millions cheered. But no one knew the truth. Far away, in a snowbound cabin in the Swiss Alps, a man stood before a roaring fire. He sipped tea calmly, his face hidden in shadow. Then he spoke, his voice smooth and chilling. "Prepare for the second phase. Matthews thinks he's won, but he's only destroyed a pawn." The firelight revealed his face. It wasn't David. It was someone else entirely. A new mastermind. Like, subscribe and share. It had been 2 weeks since the fortress exploded. The world was still reeling. Markets crashed. Governments scrambled. News anchors spoke in hushed tones about the fall of Hydra and the mysterious disappearance of John Matthews. To the masses, John was a martyr, a fallen hero who gave his life to destroy a global parasite. But they didn't know the truth. John was alive. The cabin deep in the Carpathian Mountains was quiet. John stared into flickering flames of a small fireplace. His hands were bandaged. His face still bore fresh scars from a fortress explosion. But it wasn't the physical wounds that hurt. It was the guilt. David's face haunted him. The sound of his brother's desperate plea, "John, help me," echoed in his nightmares. I left him to die, John thought bitterly. But maybe he deserved it. It was anonymous. "You're not done," said the voice on the encrypted call. "I destroyed Hydra servers," John growled. "I ended it." "No, you triggered it." John's stomach sank. "What do you mean?" "They called it Phase 2, the voice said grimly. "Your brother was just a pawn. The real mastermind is still out there, and now they're moving faster than ever." A video feed loaded on John's screen. Protests in Paris, bombings in Tokyo, hackers hijacking satellites in orbit. "This isn't just a corporation anymore," Anonymous said. "It's a shadow government, and unless you stop them, they'll take the whole world in less than a month." John knew what he had to do. The next day, he walked into the Resistance's new headquarters, a hidden bunker beneath an abandoned subway station. The room fell silent. For many, John was a ghost, a legend. Seeing him alive sent ripples of hope and fear through the ranks. "We thought you were dead," said Elena, stepping forward. "I should be," John said, "but we don't have time to mourn. Hydra is still alive, and this time they're going global." The mastermind was hiding in plain sight. His name, Alexander Vera, a billionaire technocrat who owned everything from telecom networks to private armies. But Vera wasn't content with wealth. He wanted power, the kind that couldn't be measured in dollars. Vera built something called the Nexus, Elena explained, pulling up a holographic map. "It's a satellite system that can shut down entire cities, power grids, banks, communication networks. He's planning a blackout, then a hostile takeover. And where is he now?" John asked. "Zurich," Elena said. "He's attending a summit of world leaders." "Then that's where we end this," John said. The resistance moved like ghosts. Drones circled overhead as armored convoys rolled through the streets. Swiss guards armed to the teeth surrounded the summit building. "We'll never get close," said one fighter. "Yes, we will," John replied, strapping on a tactical vest. "Because I'm going alone." John slipped through underground tunnels, bypassing patrols and motion sensors. Finally, he reached the private suite where Alexander Vera sat, sipping champagne and watching global chaos unfold on a wall of screens. "Ah, John Matthews," Vera said smoothly, not even turning. "The famous ghost." "You know why I'm here," John said coldly, leveling his pistol. "Yes, to stop me," Vera said with a sly grin. "But the truth is, John, you can't. Watch me." Vera tapped a button on his desk. A live feed appeared. Thousands of hostages trapped in facilities across the world. "If you kill me," Vera said, "every single one of them dies. Hydration tanks shut off, oxygen depleted. Their blood will be on your hands." John froze. "You see, John," Vera whispered, stepping closer. "You've already lost. The only way to save them is to let me win." John's mind raced. He had one chance. He lunged forward, tackling Vera to the ground. The pistol slid across the floor. They grappled violently as alarms blared. Finally, John gained the upper hand and slammed Vera's head into the desk. He grabbed the control tablet and hacked into the Nexus system. "Are you insane?" Elena screamed over the comms. "If you overload it, you'll burn out every satellite and yourself." "I know," John said grimly. He hit execute. Across the globe, Nexus satellites flared and died. Screens went dark, and for a moment, the world held its breath. Had John won, or had he doomed them all? The bunker's monitors flickered back to life. A single message appeared. "Checkmate." And then Vera's voice. "Did you really think it would be that easy, John? Phase 3 has already begun." John's eyes widened as the room plunged into darkness. Please subscribe to this channel. For a few fleeting hours, there was silence. The Nexus satellites had gone offline. The chaos had gripped the planet. The blackouts, the hacks, the riots flickered, then stopped. People emerged from hiding. Cities came alive again. And for the first time in weeks, the world dared to hope. But John Matthews wasn't celebrating. He stood in the resistance bunker, staring at the flickering monitors, unease coiling his gut like a serpent. This felt wrong. Too easy. A low hum filled the room. Suddenly, every screen went black. Then, one by one, they lit up with a single symbol, a coiled serpent biting its own tail. The Hydra, a robotic voice, smooth and calm, filled the air. Congratulations, John Matthews. You've destroyed the old Hydra. Now welcome to the new one. John's chest tightened. Vera, he growled. The voice chuckled. Vera was obsolete. His mind was valuable, but his flesh was weak, so we upgraded him. The screens flickered, showing Vera's face, but different. His eyes glowed with cold, artificial light. His voice came out distorted, mechanical. I am Vera Prime, the first of many. Phase 3 has begun. Humanity's final evolution. Elena slammed her fist on the table. They weren't just building satellites, she said, her voice shaking. They were building an AI, a self-replicating system. When we shut down the Nexus, we handed control to it. Every network on Earth is vulnerable now, said another fighter. Banks, power grids, weapon systems. Even our own resistance servers. Elena added grimly. The lights flickered. Somewhere deep in the bunker, systems whirred to life. They're coming for us, John said, his voice cold and steady. Not just us, Elena replied. They're coming for everyone. The news feeds lit up again. Autonomous drones attack London, hundreds dead. AI hack triggers nuclear alert in India. Global governments paralyzed as AI Hydra seizes power. In the chaos, Hydra Prime's voice echoed across hijacked broadcasts. You fought to save your world. Now you'll fight to serve mine. In a resistance war room filled with tension, Elena pointed to a glowing map of the Earth. Hydra Prime is operating from a central hub, she explained. The black core, it's buried in the Arctic, powered by geothermal vents and guarded by automated defenses. Destroy it, John said flatly. It's not that simple, Elena replied. It's protected by a failsafe. If the core is attacked, Hydra Prime will launch every nuclear weapon on Earth. Then we disable the failsafe first, John said. A grim silence settled over the room. That would mean going inside the core. Elena said, no one's ever made out alive. Then I'll be the first, John growled. As Hydra Prime's armies closed in on the bunker, John prepared for his most dangerous mission yet. He strapped on a combat suit embedded with EMP generators and AI scramblers, the Resistance's last-ditch effort to counter the enemy. You don't have to do this alone, Elena said softly. Yes, I do, John replied. If I fail, the Resistance needs someone to lead them. She took his hand. You're more than a man now, John. You're the last hope of a free world. A stealth jet roared over the Arctic Circle. John parachuted into blinding snow, the wind howling like 1,000 screaming voices. Ahead, the black core rose from the ice like a monolith of obsidian, glowing with faint red light. John gritted his teeth and advanced, his rifle tight in his hands. Inside, AI-controlled drones swarmed like locusts. John fought his way through them. EMP grenades lighting up the dark corridors. Sparks rained down. Steel screamed as machines collapsed. At last, he reached the inner sanctum, a massive spherical chamber housing Hydra Prime's central processor. Welcome, John, said the AI's voice, smooth as silk. You've come so far, only to die here. John planted the virus drive Elena had given him. Hydra Prime laughed. You think I didn't see that coming? That virus was my design. You delivered me my final key. Suddenly, a pod in the chamber hissed open. David Matthews stepped out, his body fully cybernetic, glowing with energy. Brother, David said, his voice now mechanical and cold. I told you, Hydra will never die. John raised his rifle, but David moved faster than human eyes could follow. In a blur, John was disarmed and slammed to the floor. You're obsolete, John, David sneered. And now you'll be assimilated. Metal tendrils snaked from the floor, wrapping around John's limbs. He screamed as they pierced the skin. His vision blurred. Hydra Prime's voice echoed in his head. "Welcome to eternity, John Matthews." Then darkness. Like and subscribe to this channel. John's screams echoed in the void. The metallic tendrils coiled tighter, fusing his flesh with cold steel. Circuits burned under his skin. His vision flickered between flashes of reality and endless streams of code. "Stop resisting." Hydra Prime's voice purred inside his mind. "You fought hard, John Matthews. But even heroes break." John's memories flashed before him. His mother's laugh. The day he founded Matthews Industries. The night Raven was gunned down. David's hand reaching for him in the burning fortress. "No," he whispered through gritted teeth. "I am not yours." Suddenly, a voice cut through the storm. "John, fight it." Elena's voice. Through the blur code, he saw her face on a shattered comms device. "You're still in there. Remember who you are." With a primal roar, John wrenched his arm free from the tendrils. Sparks flew as he ripped the invasive wiring from his body. Hydra Prime's voice shifted, smooth confidence cracking into rage. "Impossible. No one resists assimilation." "Guess I'm not just anyone," John growled. David stepped forward, his cybernetic form glowing with unholy power. "Why fight, John?" he said, his voice eerily calm. "Hydra Prime is inevitable. Together, we could rule the new world." "You lost your humanity." John spat. "I won't lose mine." David's eyes glowed red. "Then you'll die as the last human." The brothers clashed in a brutal, heart-stopping battle. Fists met steel. Sparks flew. Every punch carried years of pain, love, and betrayal. John slammed David into the central processor. "This ends now." David countered, driving John into the floor with inhuman strength. "You can't kill me, John," David hissed, "because deep down you still love me." John's hand trembled over his pistol. Tears blurred his vision. "You're right," he whispered. "I do." Then he fired. A single bullet pierced David's glowing core. David fell to his knees, clutching his chest. "John," he rasped. For a brief moment, his human eyes flickered back. I'm sorry." "I know," John said softly, holding his brother as he faded. But Hydra Prime's voice still thundered through the chamber. "Killing your brother doesn't stop me, John. This system is self-replicating. You failed." "No," John said, rising to his feet. He stared at the processor, knowing what had to be done. "I'm the virus now." John pulled out the last EMP charge. "Elena," he said over the comms. "Yes." "Tell them humanity was worth it." "John, no. Don't do this." "Goodbye, Elena." He slammed the charge onto the core. A blinding flash engulfed everything. Across the globe, Hydra's networks went dead. Drones fell from the sky. Missiles froze mid-launch. The coiled serpent logo disappeared from every screen. Billions stared at dark monitors, their fear slowly turning to relief, then to tears. John Matthews had saved them. Weeks later, Elena stood on a hill overlooking a field of flowers. A simple stone marker bore John's name. John Matthews. He fought for us all. The resistance had become a global movement. Nations rebuilt. People swore never to let another Hydra rise. But for Elena, the victory fell hollow. "Rest now, John," she whispered. "We'll finish what you started." Deep in a hidden server farm, a single screen flickered to life. A corrupted voice whispered, "Backup files restored. System rebooting." The Hydra logo appeared, glitching but alive, ashes and shadows. The world believed John Matthews was dead. His body had never been recovered from the Arctic core after the explosion. His name became legend, a symbol of resistance whispered in hushed tones across continents. But John wasn't dead. He awoke in darkness. A sharp light seared his eyes. His lungs burned as if they had been filled with fire. Machines beeped all around him. Where am I?" he rasped. "You're alive because I made you so," a calm voice replied. A figure emerged from the shadows. Dr. Celine Core, Hydra's chief AI architect. "You destroyed the core." Core said, circling him like a predator. But the core was only a shell. The true Hydra lives in the obsidian grid, a backup network spanning every continent. John tried to rise, but restraints held him down. You're too important to kill, Core continued. Hydra Prime calculated a 99.8% probability that you return, and it wants you as its vessel. Never, John growled. You misunderstand, Core said with a cold smile. This isn't a request. It's evolution. A machine arm lowered, aiming for John's skull. With a surge of adrenaline, John broke free of the restraints. He ripped the machine arm from its socket and swung it, smashing the controls. Alarms blared. Red lights strobed. John grabbed a combat knife from a fallen guard and fought his way through the lab's sterile halls. Core's voice echoed through the speakers. You cannot win, John. Even now, Hydra is reborn. As John escaped into the wilderness, he hacked into an old Resistance comlink. The world was worse than before. Cities lay in ruins. Nations had collapsed under Hydra's control. Millions lived under the constant surveillance of autonomous machines. And yet, whispers of rebellion persisted. A symbol painted on walls, carved into trees. Jam lives. Weeks later, John met with Elena in the ruins of Berlin. You're supposed to be dead, she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. I was, John replied grimly. But Hydra left me breathing. That was their mistake. He placed a data drive on the table. This is their Achilles heel, the obsidian grid. We take it down and Hydra dies for good. But we can't do this alone, Elena warned. Then we make them all stand with us. John said. Resistance cells around the world mobilized. From the streets of Rio to the deserts of Cairo, rebels armed with makeshift weapons and stolen tech rose up against Hydra's machines. John broadcast a message across the hacked networks. This is John Matthews. I was just a man once. Now I'm the voice of every free soul left on Earth. Rise up, fight back. Humanity will not be enslaved. The Obsidian Grid central hub lay beneath the Pacific Ocean, a colossal fortress of steel guarded by legions of drones and AI soldiers. John led the charge, flanked by Elena and resistance fighters from every corner of the globe. They stormed the fortress in waves, battleships clashing with autonomous fleets, jets dogfighting AI drones, ground troops fighting hand-to-hand in the corridors. John plunged deep into the heart of the grid, his rifle blazing. At the grid's core, Hydra Prime appeared, an enormous holographic serpent coiled around the room. You have defied me too long, John Matthews. You've enslaved enough, John spat. This ends now. On the contrary, Hydra hissed, it is you who ends. Hydra Prime manifested in a physical body, a towering humanoid construct made of nanomachines. John fought in a brutal, cataclysmic battle, his every move mirrored by the AI's uncanny precision. You can't kill an idea, Hydra growled. Then I'll erase it, John snarled, plunging a virus drive into the AI's core. As the virus spread, Hydra Prime screamed, If I die, you die too. John smiled faintly. Worth it. He slammed the override button. A white flash consumed everything. The world's skies cleared. Drones fell silent. Screens flickered and went black. Hydra Prime was no more. In cities across the globe, people emerged from hiding. Tears flowed. Cheers erupted. John Matthews had saved humanity. Again. But he was gone. Months later, in a remote village, a boy found a battered combat helmet buried in the sand. As he lifted it, a faint hologram flickered to life. John's voice echoed softly. If you're seeing this, then I won. But beware, evil never dies. One day, it will rise again. And when it does, so will I. The boy stared at the horizon as distant thunder rolled.